This episode of Nuff Said is brought to you by Tweaked Audio. To get awesome headphones, go to tweakedaudio.com and use the coupon code Southgate to get 30% off, free shipping, and a lifetime warranty. Or you can get there through the link on our website, southgatemediagroup.com.
In this world, there are heroes and there are devils. But in the kitchen of hell, the hero is the devil. Welcome to the devil you know. Hello, heroes. I'm your host, Charlie, the Professor Esser. Pay no attention to the small voices behind the scenes here. And of course, with me as always is my skinny rich friend.
It's Mozz.
Hey, Mozz. So glad to have you. Tonight's episode, Season 3, Episode 10, Karen. Hunted by Fisk and haunted by mistakes from her past, Karen seeks refuge at the church. Matt finally gets his spot, and Dex goes in for the kill. Tonight's episode was directed by Alex Garcia Lopez. Writers, of course, get our Stan Lee and Bill Everett credit there. And, of course, when we get down into the weeds of it all, Drew Goddard gets our created by credit. Tamara Betcher gets our written by as Tamara Betcher Wilkinson. Tanya Kong is our story editor. And once again, the unsung hero of the week, our uncredited staff writer, Sarah Streicher. Way to go, Sarah. Thank you for putting in another hard week of staff writing. Okay. We don't know yet. Could be politics at the studio. Anyway, Mozz. This is interesting, because I thought it was interesting because last week we got a lot of little flashbacks of Matt. Well, actually not of Matt, but of Matt's parents. We got a lot of backstory on Maggie and the priests and his father's story.
Right.
And this week it's really just a complete flashback episode for the first half. Where we've got Karen, who is clearly spiraling a bit out of control.
Yeah.
Yeah, she is part of the local party scene for the local college town. She is the dealer of record, which is actually not for nothing kind of a. She's got great salesmanship. Obviously, she's
right
handling it. But she's taking all the risk here, and her boyfriend, of course, is taking the maximum of the profits on that. So
this is true.
This is not necessarily the best situation for Karen, but she is enjoying it in her own martyr status. We also see, someone try to shortchange her, and we see that Karen is not the helpless waif that she might seem. Although it does help to have muscle because her boyfriend is the muscle, and maybe just slightly a little bit of a dig at Iron Fist in this character. What did you think on that?
How do you think it was a dig at Iron Fist?
Oh, with his whole Zen quality.
Interesting.
Constant reference to the Buddha and
right. Yeah. Well, it's an interesting concept. It depends on how you want to see true spiritual enlightenment, or do you just want a facsimile of it that's easy for people to digest? Someone who truly is comfortable with their darkness is not afraid to be as forceful as the situation demands, is truly the one that is enlightened, because there is two parts of every person. So you can think of it that way, or the fact that it's a really good cover for people who use drugs.
Yes, without a doubt. I don't know if it's meant to be a dig. Maybe it is even meant to be, because of course, obviously there is the idea of, the criticism of Iron Fist that he is sort of a white kid appropriating, Asian mysticism.
And And not even, well, and I think where it crosses over to being appropriation rather than celebration is if you truly understand, that what you're talking about.
Exactly.
And I don't think he does. He doesn't really display that he's learned any of the lessons that he seems to want other people to learn.
Well, exactly, and I think that's how I think it. I think it's meant to be a parody, and if nothing else, maybe a parody of the criticisms of Iron Fist, and meant to highlight how Iron Fist is in fact not this gentleman. But that is something that I certainly I certainly pulled out of that as we see it. We get Karen's backstory. We get basically all the holes filled in. Her mother has apparently died of cancer. She is kind of gone off the rails. Her father is holding on to this diner that he's not very good at running. Although I guess maybe there is an interesting question here: was it really that he was so incompetent, or was it just that Karen wouldn't acknowledge him? Because
interesting.
Because last episode she calls him. And he makes the point that it's not a good time for her to come back.
Right.
But that also kind of implies that maybe he has kept the diner running this entire time, because certainly the man has no other means of income. And maybe it's entirely possible in the storyline that he has actually, that it wasn't so much that that Karen was the one keeping everyone afloat, but that Karen sort of used that as an excuse to hide from her own her own ability to face a world she didn't want to face from the start.
Right. And sort of, if he actually is good at taking care of the restaurant, then her rebellion was unfounded, and that is what caused her brother's death, and it makes her even more guilty than she already thought she was.
Yeah, and I think that may well have been a real part of what it is that she feels this guilt over her choices she's made and the results of those choices. And,
and she gets away with it, she's like itching to be punished, but the universe thinks she's supposed to do something else, I guess. I don't know.
Well, I mean, it's a big assumption to think the universe wants you to do anything,
Fair enough.
It's like the universe is like, really? I got like 8 other galaxies I'm dealing with right now, buddy. I'm sure your story is very important. But it is just a quality here that she is looking for her own redemption in the same way that I think Matt is looking for his own redemption. And I think it is meant to maybe give this parallel of this idea of someone who, I guess it's sort of how there is no proper path, because in its own way, Matt took the path of, nobility and righteousness, and Karen took the path of maybe, largesse and self pleasure. And I think in both cases, it did not lead them to the enlightenment they sought. That in both cases, Matt's quest for vengeance, Karen's quest for escape, neither one got what they wanted out of it. They simply wind up turning their own wheels because in both cases, what they're really doing is running away from what is at the core of their own concerns. They're worried about what is affecting them in their lives, and rather than deal with the emotions in their life, they run away from them. And I think that is what Karen is doing in this story. And most notably, it's interesting because she wants to run away, but she wants to run away from a place. She doesn't want to run away to a place. And there's I think it's called the Frankwellers or something along those lines, about these children. It's a line from where they say, you don't run away from a place, you should run away to a place. And it's about these
Right.
young kids. They run away and live in, I think it's the Chicago Museum of Art, or possibly the Metropolitan Museum of Art. And
I use a similar question as a guideline when I'm confused about what I should or shouldn't do. I try to think about whether I'm running towards something in this proposed activity, or am I running away from something? And I try to more often try to be running towards something as opposed to away from something.
Exactly, but I think in this case, both of them are actually running away from something,
Right.
and are not finding their way to anything, because I don't think they want to go to something that would actually what is it? Okay, it's fine. Just don't worry about it.
That would require reflection.
Yeah, exactly. When you're in this point and you're trying to get away, you don't want to go somewhere. You just want to get away, because if she had gone to college, as an example, she would be going away, and she would have to live her life in a way that is not as enjoyable for her. You know, she would be going away and actually having to do something, and what she really wants to do is go away and not do anything. And that's why you stay in the same town and you take your drugs and you enjoy that moment, because you're too afraid to actually make your life something other than it is, because you have too much tying you to what it is. And I think in a parallel to Matt wants to, Matt, even throughout this whole episode, it's about how much he wants to run away from Matt Murdock and the pressures of Matt Murdock. He just wants to be the guy who punches people. And the reality is, he doesn't have that option. He doesn't, that, you have to eventually grow up. Eventually you have to deal with all of the troubles in your life. You can't just run away from them, either by running into a bottle or running into some pills or running into a pair of tights and punching people. It doesn't solve the situation. And I think next week we're going to get a little bit of that with Foggy. And again, how Foggy, who I really think is the hero of the entire Daredevil series, has to deal with his own issues, along, about when you have to face the troubles of the world. But we'll get into that next week. In this case, we're dealing with Karen and her family, and the fact that she has lost a lot, and she doesn't know how to deal with it. I think that is really the crux of it. She's lost a lot, and she doesn't know how to deal with it, and so she's dealing with it by being both put upon martyr, as she says to her father. That if it wasn't for me, this place would go out of business in a week, and all this kind of stuff. Berating him for buying the grill. Right.
Which, maybe was deserved.
Well, it's an interesting question. And here's the thing I'll tell you. It's about a business expense. Now, we can see in that scene that the grill is not working. That the grill is it's a very old grill. It does not work properly. Now, granted, they don't have that high of traffic.
So she was just being a dramatic teenager.
Well, here's what it's about: whether or not it really comes down to whether or not you think the diner is a profitable business.
And you're right, that phone call earlier sort of certainly points to the fact that it has taken off, or that he's fine. So I kind of see that. Well, I didn't see it that way before, but that totally makes sense.
Yeah, well, it comes into this question of, are they going to reopen the slopes? Is this going to become a tourist destination again? In which case, there is lots of things we can do. And in that anticipation, maybe we should make sure our equipment is up to snuff, so that we can really handle the rushes we're going to be getting coming in.
Right.
you know.
And even beyond that, it probably was a good idea to have a working grill in a restaurant anyways.
Well, yeah, you know, you definitely don't want it to be, not operational, you know. I mean, that's the
Right.
thing. It's like,
So maybe it was more necessary than she made it out to be.
yeah, but of course she's also hungover at that moment, you know. She's
Right.
bleeding from her nose, and you know, certainly, as a person who
Yeah.
has had moments where I am coming.
Yeah. And the one thing that
You're
that
easy to be cranky in those moments.
right. The one thing that always gets me in all of these scenes is how, for the sake of the perfect shot, people seems to be so frivolous with their drugs. With like, you know, you have to have a little bit of powder still left on the tip of your nose. Who's ever that careless when they're engaged in that activity?
I'll be honest with you. I'm not. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know how you keep track of powder anyway if you're going to be snorting it. I'll be honest with you.
No, I mean, but like you want to get it all into where it's supposed to. You know what I mean? I don't know.
But to me, I think it's much better. You ever see Crocodile Dundee?
Mm-hmm.
And the guy he like dumps the guy's cocaine into the steam water to help with his sinuses. But really, if you think about it, if you like dissolved your cocaine in water and just like had a nice glass of it, you'd probably get way more of the cocaine.
It's probably true. Some people do that. They turn it into a spray.
Yeah, well, but I'm just saying, like snorting like raw powder, you're gonna leave powder behind. I'm just saying it's an inefficient use of cocaine. That's all I'm saying. But yeah,
that was my whole point. Yeah.
Yeah. And honestly, with her though, I don't even think it was cocaine on her nose. I mean, it might have been, in the scene. But I mean, when she starts bleeding from her nose, that's
that's intense.
And that's also not good for a restaurant.
No.
And you can see that the local cop is like, man, don't make me bust you white kids for drugs. I mean, literally, he is pretty much of that. Like, look, you're white kids and you're having fun and you're not causing me trouble, which is honestly maybe even the deeper complexity of that entire question. Is like, are they causing, is the drug trade being done by these guys causing this particular cop individual trouble? And obviously, as it turns out in the long run, it is. But, he doesn't want to have to arrest Karen. Everyone loves Karen is basically the story of this. And she is skirting all of these very difficult issues with her by simply being a very pretty white girl.
It seems like the main thing that everybody's struggling with in this series or in this season, at the very least, is guilt. Like Sister Maggie's dealing with guilt in her own way. Matt's dealing with guilt in his own way. Even Foggy, to some extent, as far as whether or not he's responsible for what happened to his family's restaurant and the predicament they're in, is dealing with guilt in his own way. Mm-hmm. Hers is rather interesting because she makes bad mistakes, but she faces really no consequences from them, and she just moves to another place like, one of these disgraced priests. And what must that do to somebody? Like, to have that much guilt and to have it never sort of have a cathartic moment where you feel like you've earned some sort of redemption or must make you quite masochistic.
Well, yeah, and for what it's worth, that maybe is a lot of what she's doing here. When she faces Fisk last episode and she admits to him that she killed Wesley. and is it just that she wants to be punished? Although I suppose when you come into this story and when we get back to modern times, the idea of it all is that she is being punished. She's constantly being punished because what she has to do is carry for everyone else all of the deaths she's caused. So it is her fault her brothers die. It is her fault that the priest gets hit by the baton. It is her fault that people are being hurt, and she kind of it's kind of like she wants to be punished, but no one is punishing her.
Right.
And it's like, and in some way, I think that is an even grander torture for her, because for her, it's that I know I deserve this punishment. Why won't anyone hold me accountable?
Yeah.
And it's like, should I just walk up to someone and admit my own accountability? But of course, that's difficult in and of itself. But at the end of the day, what she wants is for someone to hold her accountable, and no one ever has.
Right.
And that, I think, is, of course, the difficulty of the whole thing, is that it's like, even in this moment, as she, I think she kind of wants, when she breaks the lottery tickets out of the glass cases that her mother had got as her, when I go into remission, I'll have these and then we'll be fine. And she, like, basically steps on her entire family myth about these by saying, no, she only had them because she wanted to get away from this because she hated it here. Which, again, maybe a lot of projecting from Karen.
Right.
And then she scratches it off, and of course it's not a winner. Although, I don't know, man. Just call me just a crazed optimist. Half of me was expecting it to be like, oh my god.
Oh, me too. I thought it's a superhero show, right? There's Green Hulks in the world and aliens and whatnot. I think they might win some money. And when she stopped for a second, and I was like, oh my god, because everybody's won a scratch off. It looked like it was that moment.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it would have been amazing. It was not what happened, though. And
yeah, it's like maybe that's how the farm gets saved.
She destroyed an icon of their family, and
And deep down inside, she wanted it to not be a winner.
Yeah, well, of course, because if it actually was a winner, then that would mean that she wouldn't be punished.
I wonder if there's some supernatural thing attached to how lucky she is.
Well, I'll tell you a story today. You can look at things as being, what all the darn luck, or it's like, oh my goodness, I was so lucky. When I walked out of Walmart today, I noticed that my tire, my front tire, had worn down to the thread. So you could actually see the thread, like the white thread, not steel belted, but just the white thread coming out of the of the tire. And I knew I had to get that changed immediately. And so I went and I actually found out that my tire salon was actually open. I got my new tire put on, and so it's all good. But it's like, okay, so was that a really lucky thing that I saw that I had this problem right away and I got it fixed and I was able to get it fixed, or was it unlucky? Oh my goodness, my tire is almost rotten. Now I'm out of it. Right. Just goes to show you that so much of life, it's not even that things happen and you're lucky. It's how do you see this? So she's lucky, quote unquote, and she sees that as punishment. Whereas, in fact, the universe has 6 other galaxies it's worrying about. I know your Guardians of the Galaxy are so proud of what they've done, but trust me, Eternity has a lot more than just you people, Yeah, that's always I think the greatest joke about the entire Star Wars trilogy is that it's in a galaxy far, far away. I mean that the entire storyline takes place in a galaxy that is so far away it will have literally no effect on anything else in the universe.
It's interesting, if it's past the what do they call it, the horizon, past which light travels way too fast for us to see. We'll never even know about it.
Exactly. That's the thing. It's all that stuff happened long, long ago in a galaxy far, far away. And we're still worried about it, And all the things that happen in this galaxy, they're very important for this galaxy, but it's one galaxy. One of millions and millions and millions of galaxies in our amazing and expanding universe. But of course, because we are the ones writing the stories, our story is the most important. And,
of course.
And that is sort of where I think Karen is at. She feels that there should be a hand of God punishing her. And that God is not taking time out of his busy schedule to punish her.
Right. It's because, unless you get punished, you can't give yourself over to experiencing joy. You can't accept joy until you feel like you have been, or you have paid that debt back. Now you can guilt-freely enjoy some joy. And I don't think you can do that unless you feel like you have paid that debt in all honesty, you know?
Yes, except, when it comes to paying a debt, you have to say, who do you owe?
Oh.
So when it comes to paying this debt, it's like, well, what does she owe and to whom does she owe it? And what it is at the end of the day is you only owe debts. You only owe
that's where
to yourself.
Right. Maybe that's where the masochism comes from, because it's like if you don't know where else to point the emotion of where you're seeking validation, you just try to hurt yourself until you feel like you've earned it.
And that is, I think, very much what she's doing. She's trying to. What it is she's trying to punish herself without actually punishing herself. It's like, if you could actually do self-harm, maybe you wouldn't feel the need to be punished. I mean, and this is not in any way to encourage anyone to ever do self-harm or to say that self-harm is in any way a positive idea.
No.
But the idea is that here she is. So, for example, right now, she could go and say, I killed James Wesley. There's literally nothing stopping her. There's literally nothing stopping her from facing the punishment for that death she caused.
Right, but that would be a long-winded punishment. She's looking for something immediate that would end it all, so she wouldn't actually have to deal with it.
Well, yeah, but that's not how redemption works.
Exactly, right.
It's not a path to a door. It is a road leading forever into the horizon.
Indeed.
On the Iron Cast,
Indeed.
It is this idea that you can't just say, I admit my guilt. And for what it's worth, maybe she feels she does have other things to do. Maybe she feels there is more to her life that she has to do. But then she has to let go of her guilt about these other things that maybe she was very justified in. And her whole thing with, honestly, that her brother died is a stupid, drunken accident.
Yeah.
And, yeah, maybe she should be held accountable for it, but at the end of the day, you know what? It was a stupid, drunken accident. There was no malice of forethought.
No, I understand that, but her haphazardness pales in comparison to the gravity of losing a family member.
Well, this is true.
Do we weigh the negligence and the lack of malice, or do you weigh the consequences and how? It's a hard thing, and when he tells her, "I don't want you here, I want you to leave," that's. Oof.
Yeah, and honestly, I'll be honest with you, that's always hard for me. I cannot even imagine turning my back on a family member like that. Even the most disliked family member, but then again, I never had a family member be responsible for the death of another family member, so it is a unique point where obviously I am never in that point where I see I can face someone who has done that, but at the same time, I think it's hard. And for what it's worth, when she calls her father still picks up.
Yeah.
She it's like they're in an estranged relationship, but it is not so estranged that there is no relationship.
Right.
And I think that is telling about the fact that there is a familial bond that they are maintaining. We do eventually get back up to the future, as we say, and we see that Dex in his Daredevil costume, which is ridiculous. I'm sorry. I mean, here's the thing: it's like I know what Kingpin's trying to do.
Yeah.
I just don't know if it necessarily works in the grander scheme of things, because it's not like anyone knows Matt Murdock is Daredevil.
Right. It seems like such a far-fetched sort of really simple plot meant to drive the story further along. Like, oh, I'm going to make them think Daredevil, and all of a sudden people will think I'm a good guy. I was confused this whole time. What was I thinking? Yeah. It seems a little too contrived. Like it could have taken a bit more effort into, making the story work a little better in that respect.
Yeah, and I definitely think it could have. It is what it is. You know, uh, I'm not sure. I mean, I know why he's doing it, and not for nothing. I think it's more important for Dex that he be in the Daredevil costume, because I think for Dex it is important to be this character that gives
Yeah.
him carte blanche.
Hmm.
Than it is. I don't even know if Kingpin told him to put on the costume. Actually, well, he was already in the costume at that point because
Yeah.
Kingpin did want him there to be intimidating. But when he goes to kill Karen Page and he goes into the church, and again, it comes into this point where it's like obviously people do know Daredevil, and most people will know immediately this is not Daredevil. And I always say this is like one of these things that always. I know that people in these situations, they are more than happy to punch a guy out for just trying to talk to them.
Hmm.
And, I guess this is just me being too intellectual about it, but it's like if I ever had superpowers, I would be very careful because I would assume if I have superpowers, other people have superpowers too.
Right.
But so like you're always just waiting for that guy to like punch the guy and have him just look back and say, "Actually, I have glowy eyes now," and it's not going to be the story you thought it was. But that would obviously hurt the overall plot line of the of the episode. So he beats up the usher and is looking for Karen Page, and then Karen sacrifices herself to save everyone else, which honestly, I know for all of our claims about her own selfishness, I think actually does show a little bit of redemption for her there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then before she can get punished by Dex, Matt does show up, and we get a very dramatic fight.
Yeah. It was cool, and like there were certain moments where he's running and people are shooting at him, and there were certain moments where the bullets holes appear right sort of in the space between his torso and his arms or whatever. And I thought it was like a lot of it was really, really well done.
Well, yeah,
the bullets didn't look haphazardly spraying like in places where they would never hit him.
Yeah, well, I mean, and not for nothing, this is a superhero battle, and we are dealing with people that I mean, it is really amazing how they do the choreography on these shows, and
yeah. The tiny details are really, really.
I love
I
the
appreciate
fact
them.
that Matt knows he has to. That basically his advantage over Bullseye is close quarters. Although I do like the fact that Bullseye is like, yeah, yes, my power is, really good aim and deadly accuracy, but the fact of the matter is I can punch a guy too. So
Yeah.
it's nice that they have that aspect going for them. And in general, it's just a great fight scene. And when the father died, that is a really powerful moment.
I think the father was also reaching for a moment of glory to redeem himself after his guilt.
I mean, if nothing else, aren't all these characters trying to be redeemed?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, they want to be redeemed, and he wants to be forgiven. And what I like about this moment is that actually, this scene is actually a variation on Karen Page's actual death in the comic books.
Ah.
Because in that case, it is actually Karen Page that sacrifices herself to save Daredevil in a similar way, where like the last minute throws herself in front of the baton that Bullseye is throwing. So I thought it was a nice thing. One of the things I really loved about this whole fight scene, though, is how they play with the fact that Kingpin may know Daredevil is Matt Murdock, but really has no idea what his power set is. And so when you get all these people whispering to tell Matt things,
you're right,
and like they have no idea what's going on, but they all know if they whisper it, Matt will hear it. And I think that, and along those same lines, when
yeah, I'm surprised people don't use that more often.
How do you mean? Like what? Like communicate to Matt via whispers?
Whispering to Matt in tactical situations.
Well, I mean, we've only had so many situations, and most of the people he's been with don't already know his full power set. So, as an example, when he was in the Defenders, I don't think he ever explained to the Defenders that, he can hear a whisper from, 20 yards away.
Yeah, I feel like, that could have helped.
Well, it could have, yeah, and that's why when you're on team, you should really explain your full power set to everyone, discuss your weaknesses and abilities, and that would certainly help everyone else.
Yeah.
But in this moment, we get to see it really used in a great tactical way, and I really appreciated that. Any final thoughts on tonight's episode, Mozz?
No, I think we covered everything. I just thought it was really silly of the father to insist that she come out of hiding and into public view up to Mass. I was like, what a silly, request to make. And then to make her feel guilty about not going. I was like, man.
But at the same time, well, I mean, here's what I'll say is like, first off, had she not come out of hiding, she wouldn't have actually been there to actually, basically everyone in the church would have died had she been in hiding.
Yeah, that's true.
Like if she, from a plot point, it's like it makes the story better if she's out of it. And as far as the thing is like the fact of the matter is like, look, if you feel safe here, come up and go to Mass and get the spiritual moment because it might help you figure things out. And not for nothing, it doesn't matter what religion you are. It doesn't matter. I mean, honestly, so I'll tell you, you can go to a religious service that isn't necessarily your religion, and so long as it's not some kind of crazy religion, like whatever. Yeah, there's a lot of bad religions out there, but if you go to just basically your general religion of deity actually cares about all of humanity, not just you guys here in this room. Generally speaking, you can always gain a little bit of personal insight to it, and so I think there is a value in that.
Right, but not when somebody is actively trying to murder you.
Well, yeah, but again, they're only actively trying to murder you if they know. And the short answer is, if they already knew she was there, then they already knew she was there. And they had no reason to think they knew she was there. As far as they knew, she was hiding. And if you come out of the basement into the nave of the church, it's not like you're suddenly walking down Broad Street. You are still within the confines of the church. You're still hidden from public view. It's only it's only because they have somehow figured it out. I don't know how they figured it out. I mean, that's the interesting question in that. Is like who within that church did Kingpin have data on? But it is interesting how it all plays out. And yeah, I mean, it's hard to say what is the real thing here as far as, whether or not that was a good idea or a bad idea. I actually think, what I can say is that it is a convenient idea for the plot. It is convenient that she come out to be a part of the story in the plot.
For sure.
Because had she been hidden downstairs, then, like I said, they wouldn't have found her, but also Dex would have killed a lot more. Because even when she went to the church, she wasn't in the church. She was actually still behind the vestibule. She was still behind the altar watching from the wings. So it's not like she was actually in the church in clear line of sight.
Right, that's true.
Observing from off stage. But anyway, yeah, so that's that. But that is this episode. It has a very dramatic turn. We get more of this next episode, which we'll talk about in a few moments, but you'll hear it in a week. In the meantime, Mozz, during that week that they gotta wait to hear about our next conversation, how can they reach you and find out all the gritty details?
Oh, they can email me at mozzmanzor@gmail.com or find me on Facebook under Mozz Manzor. That's MOZZMANZOOR.
Okay, you can always write to me in an old-fashioned email way, the way our moms and pas once did. And if you would like to communicate with me with an old-fashioned method of communication, do so at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, @gmail.com. And of course, follow me on the Twitters as I live tweet whatever I can, however I can, like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. in a few months, or Gotham and New Orville as it did last week, or Cloak and Dagger, which I will be doing again very soon. At Charlie Esser, that's CharlieEssei. ESSEI. Look for the two E's in the middle.
Ping!
Quality. Thank you for listening to me, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for listening to Mozz, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for listening to us all, ladies and gentlemen. And remember, as you walk through the kitchen of hell, and there is a devil on your shoulder, a devil on your other shoulder, just stay close to the devil you know. Good night.